Apart from a few scattered showers, tonight it will be dry with clear spells, minimum temperatures of 4 to 8 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
Now then, welcome along to this evening's Off the Ball. We've got a good one for you this evening. Johnny Sexton's studio interview coming your way in the first hour of the show. We also have Ruaidhri O'Connor with us from the Irish Independent. We'll get his thoughts on the Wales game. Galway All-Ireland Camogie champions. We have captain Sarah Dervin and the player of the match, Niamh Kilkenny, with us later on, just after 8 o'clock. Plus, we'll bring you some of what Mick McCarthy has been saying today, Bulgaria friendly tomorrow, live on the show. 53106, the text number. We are at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack is alongside me. Hello.
Hey, Joe.
And Ruaidhri O'Connor from the Irish Independent with us for the Newsround as well. Good evening.
Hey, Joe.
So, you're off to Japan on Friday.
I am, yeah.
Exciting times.
Indeed.
I didn't actually know where the Irish team were based.
Yeah. I just got a text when I was off air from one of my colleagues. It was like, where are we going on Friday? So I don't think anyone does. It hasn't really, it's kind of been a week-to-week thing because of the way the whole thing worked out. So I think they're starting off in a place called Chiba, which is near Tokyo. It's, I think, about an hour and a half by train from Tokyo, near the airport, quiet. I think it's just, they'll go there, settle, get their bearings, and then on, I think, Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, they'll travel to Yokohama, which is the other side of Tokyo, a bit further south, which is a very new city with a very impressive Chinatown, I'm told, with my Lonely Planet guide.
That's nice doing research already.
Yeah, exactly. Where they'll play Scotland, and then they keep moving progressively south to Fukuoka, which is down almost near Korea, for their fourth pool game, and then hopefully, all going well, they'll zip their way back up to Tokyo so it'll be rail travel the whole way down, and then a flight back up to Tokyo for the quarterfinal. I'm
just realising as you're talking, and no immediate questions are jumping to mind or thoughts, I'm incredibly ignorant, I think, of Japan.
I'm exactly the same. I've tried to read a few novels this summer to try and just learn a little bit about Japanese culture, and got through one. And yeah, of all the places in the world, I'd say I know the least about this because I studied a bit of China in university and stuff, but Japan has just passed me by a little bit. A lot of World War II information that I probably won't be using.
Yeah.
Although I do hope to get to Hiroshima or Nagasaki. I think it's quite close to one of the bases, but I'm not really excited to see it a bit. I mean, the way the time zones work out, there's actually possibly a bit of scope to do your work and get out and see a bit of the country as well, which will be good.
How big is it?
Very big, yeah. Very populous. I think it's very long.
How many times does Ireland fit in it? That's often a good way of doing these things.
I don't know the answer to that question.
It is big, like it's big enough. You're kind of...
It's not big enough.
That's...
Richie, don't get too technical on here.
But you're kind of thrown by what it's surrounded by, because when you consider off to the west, you've got like those massive of Russia and China, etc. That you kind of think, oh yeah, by comparison, it's tiny. When in actual fact, on its own, huge.
It wasn't big enough for them in the 1920s and 30s, so they tried to expand a little bit. And they took on some big fish as well. Like they've been ambitious.
History's your strong suit.
I have a master's in history, so that would be my... Well, that's where I focused my energies when I wasn't...
You could have just said yes, but you had to throw in the masters there, which I liked and appreciated.
Do you even know the population of Japan?
Oh, between 60 and 70 million.
So don't look at me like I know.
Yeah, I presume you got Google. I'm the only one without a laptop in front of me, so I can be made look very stupid. I haven't got to that chapter of the Lonely Planet guide.
Well, listen, you'll come back in 6-7 weeks.
Yeah, wearing a kimono.
Be able to give us the full story. I guess that's one of the perks of the job. You get to see a country properly.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the last kind of rugby nation that I've been to, because I've been to, well, apart from the islands, which I haven't been to yet, I've been to all the others, so it's pretty cool to complete the set.
126 million, Rory. You don't have a notion.
Oh, halfway there.
Ireland is 5 times smaller than Japan. Really? Is that all? Yeah.
And yet plucky Ireland are the heavy favourites to beat them in the second game of the tournament.
So to kick off the news round, Richie, the good news, I think this was generally expected, but Keith Earls is absolutely on the plane.
He will be on the plane on Wednesday to Japan with the rest of the Ireland squad for the Rugby World Cup. The Munster winger picked up a knock during Saturday's win over Wales at the Aviva, but he is fit enough to retain his place in the originally named 31-man panel. Ireland begin their pool campaign against Scotland in Yokohama on the 22nd of this month.
We'll talk about this after 8 o'clock, but in general terms, your big takeaway for people who didn't see the Wales game?
We're back. Ireland looked as close to as they have done since to the team that beat the All Blacks last year, in a game that you have to take on its merits. But if you criticise them for losing heavily to England, you got to give them a bit of credit for beating Wales in the way that they did. very solid performance, very cohesive performance. Didn't show a lot of their hand, but they were still good enough to get the job done. And a very nice way to send Joe Schmidt off and Rory Best off at the end of their Aviva Stadium's careers. And as you look down at the end at the players and their families and their wives and their children, and Robbie Henshaw had to put an Instagram out saying that wasn't my child. I think it must have been a niece or something that was running around with them. But it was this lovely scene, and it was just, after there was a bit of negativity over the course of this window, a lot of hard work. It didn't seem like the worst way of finishing up and going off on the flight on Wednesday.
A win, the manner of it, and the emotional release of everything that went after it as well is a kind of a nice way to jet off. It kind of makes you go without any baggage whatsoever, and you kind of almost not have a fresh start.
No injuries.
No injuries.
I mean, Keith Earls, I know he said it was expected. When I watched him come on and the stretcher being called for by he waved away the stretcher and walked off. He didn't look like a guy who was going to the World Cup. And Joe Schmidt gave one of his classic, it was either his quad or his knee, as if he hadn't already had him scanned and knew where exactly what was wrong afterwards. And I just thought this tendonitis injury, I think it's going to be a little bit of a storyline over there. Tendonitis doesn't sound like the kind of thing you can shake. No. So I would have a little bit of concern, but if he's fit enough to travel, they're obviously confident he'll be able to play a part because he's a really important player. So, in 2011, that was the game where David Wallace had his moment, and that's what you really don't want in those games, because that sucks the life out of the whole thing. Whereas, Earls was there with his 2 or 3 kids on the pitch, and it was a lovely way for them to say goodbye, because a lot of them won't. I know Johnny will speak about this, but he's not going to see his kids for until at least the semi-final week, whether he's coming home or if they all go to the expense of bringing them out, because it is very expensive. So that is a wrench for them.
Yeah, no doubt. Johnny Sexton, we've recorded that interview, so it's on the way in about 15 minutes' time. Dundalk then in action this evening?
Yeah, their defence of the FAI Cup continues at the RSC tonight. The holders are away to Waterford, and kick-off there is at 7:45. Republic of Ireland manager Mick McCarthy says Matt Doherty may be an option at left back for the crucial Euro 2020 qualifier away to Georgia next month. Enda Stevens is McCarthy's first choice left back, but is suspended for the Tbilisi game after picking up a booking in Thursday's 1-1 draw with Switzerland. And McCarthy says Wolves star Doherty may well be the man to deputise. Ireland welcome Bulgaria to the Aviva for a friendly tomorrow night, and McCarthy's poised to bring the changes for that game. But when pushed on the potential promotions of the likes of Aaron Connolly and Troy Parrott, McCarthy says it's unlikely to happen under him.
I hope they get playing, certainly playing in their teams, and I hope they give me that dilemma, that problem that when they are playing. But I keep going back to it. I'm not sure that Georgia away, Switzerland away, and Denmark at home are games for debutants. And of course, it's always the case, if I was to do that and they didn't play well, that question would be asked. So I kind of trust myself and TC and Robbie that we know who the best players and who should be playing. But I'd like to have the dilemma. Yes, of course I would, that they were playing in Champions League games or Premier League games. But at the moment they're not.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I mean, they're big games to throw these guys into.
Absolutely, it's unrealistic. And I mean, are they benefiting from working under Stephen Kenny at the moment, inculcated together in a team environment, working under his system, getting to know him, so that when he does take over, which I think, for all that everyone wants Ireland to get to the Euros in Dublin next year and wants Mick McCarthy's team to do well, it's very hard not to drift beyond that point and think about the next stage. Even listening to Johnny, Dan and Gary Breen on Saturday, they talked a lot about, they almost drifted towards Stephen Kenny from the start. Wednesday or Thursday night was the initial focus, but you move on so quickly. If these players know the system, if they know the manager, if the manager knows them, they're going to know their roles so well when they come in and become leading players if they make it. So, what's the point in having Aaron Connolly on the bench when he could be playing a qualifier with all these players this weekend? And Mick McCarthy has to look after himself as well. If he's not going to play them, there's no point.
No, it's true. I found myself watching a good half hour last night of Georgia against Denmark.
You got roped in by the scoreline, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
And a couple of tweets going, this is in the balance. There's a point on here for the Georgians.
And then there was. Yeah. But it was quite a lesson to watch it and realise just how bad other people's international games away from major tournaments are as well. On bad pitches in Georgia, just as terrible to watch.
Do you know what? I was watching on Saturday, even Holland and Germany, and there are even elements of that were not great. International football, especially these Euro qualifiers, ain't where it necessarily was or potentially would like to be. It can be a difficult watch at times.
Well, football is always a difficult watch. There are great games and great moments within games, and Match of the Day looks great because they scrap out the 60 minutes of crap that goes before. But I mean, at every level there's bad games, and
the rugby correspondent writes.
I'm a big football fan as well, but I think we expect a little bit too much from the match sometimes. You got to go and experience it, and if you get a good one, you enjoy it. I mean, I've been to enough football matches over the years to appreciate that.
John in Kilcullen is listening. Quick question: do we, in brackets, he says Ireland, have a plane capable of flying straight direct to Japan, or will the lads be making a stop off? John, they're stopping off at a small island called Saipan, and then they're going to make their way on.
They spend a few days, bit of a barbecue with the journalists.
Well, the last time, we just feel it's a good place to go.
You've had a quiet week, haven't you?
No comment. Where do they stop off?
I actually don't know that, but they will be stopping off because no one flies direct. I'm going by Heathrow, and there's a direct flight from Heathrow to Tokyo.
Okay.
So I think they'd go that way. It depends who their partners are with.
Tell Rory he won't have time for sightseeing in Japan. Apart from his rugby reports, he'll also be expected to do news stories for Indo Digital, print editions, Sport Online, and if any Irish fans go AOL, you'll be covering news as well. It's 5 weeks of hell which awaits you, Rory.
Can I just say from somebody who's been away for
what member of the Indo editorial staff did that come in for?
Just pray that no administerial staff manage to find themselves in a bit of bother while you're away, because I can tell you from experience that ain't no fun either.
No, I look forward to sitting outside whatever hotel room.
Or when you find yourself outside a prison for a couple of hours at a stage.
The RFU do tend to keep themselves reasonably clean on these trips, but I'm a bit worried about that.
Ben's been in touch. Lads, this Rugby World Cup thing, I know you have to big it up and all, but really, it's hardly a World Cup now, is it? 6, 7 teams.
Oh yeah, they're not tests either. They're only friendlies. Right, these people who just go away and watch another sport.
What's your Twitter address?
No comment.
The World Cup is not really a World Cup.
No, not me.
Right.
Rory O'Connor is where you can direct all those
at Rory OC
tweets and thoughts.
I don't look at my mentions.
We're going to have the Galway captain on the show, Sarah Dervin, and Niamh Kilkenny, who was quite brilliant. So Galway have won their 3rd All-Ireland Camogie title.
And they're welcoming home its All-Ireland champion Camogie side this evening. Yesterday's 3-14 to 17-point win over Kilkenny saw the O'Duffy Cup head west of the Shannon. The Galway panel are currently at Mullagh's GA grounds and will later head to Loughrea Hotel and Spa, where celebrations will continue. And speaking after yesterday's game, that Galway captain Sarah Dervin was asked by her own Maura Trasney-Kelly what separated them from the Cats.
We knew, like, if we upped the work rate, what we did against Cork, that we would be in with serious chance. We knew Kilkenny were going to bring it, and it was up to us to match it and more. And thankfully, each and every one of them girls, they died with their boots on. They were absolutely fantastic, and it's just, as I said, a dream come true.
What was the difference between you and Kilkenny, do you think, today? Because obviously, if you look at you all on paper, you're all as good as each other.
Yeah, our management have been absolutely unbelievable. They have put so much belief into us, it's just unreal. And the work rate, the dedication, the stuff they do behind the scenes came out there today from us, and we cannot thank them enough for all the work they've done. It's just been amazing, and it's just paid off.
There you go. That is Sarah Dervin speaking to her own Maura Trasney-Kelly after yesterday's game. Yesterday's game was indeed Anne Downey's last in charge of Kilkenny. The defeat to Galway was the 3rd consecutive All-Ireland final defeat for the Cats under Downey, and so ends her 2nd spell in charge, which began with an All-Ireland title in 2016. Bad news for Waterford's hurlers. They look set to be without Tadhg de Burca for a large portion of next year. The defender faces at least 9 months on the sidelines, having suffered an anterior cruciate ligament injury at the weekend. De Burca was taken off midway through the first half of Clashmore-Kinsale-Beggs meeting with Cappoquin at the weekend. Waterford remain without a manager as well after Pádraig Fanning resigned after a single year in charge. Peter Queally is the favourite to succeed him. Northern Ireland could take a huge step towards Euro 2020 qualification tonight. Michael O'Neill's side have won each of their first 4 games in Group C ahead of the visit of Germany to Windsor Park. The Germans lost 4-2 to the Netherlands on Friday night, and Michael O'Neill says a genuine opportunity presents itself to his side this evening.
I'm not going to sit here and highlight weaknesses. I mean, they conceded 4 goals. So, obviously, when you concede 4 goals, things on the night haven't gone according to plan, particularly if you're the home team. So, yeah, look, Germany have made, this is a lot of changes in this squad from the team that we played here for the World Cup qualifying in Russia, and certainly a lot of changes from the team that we played in France 2016. So, possibly this squad doesn't have the experience that obviously that squad had, and probably particularly in the back 3, it doesn't have the experience that that squad have.
Michael O'Neill there in kick-off in Belfast is at 7:45. Elsewhere in that group tonight, the Dutch are in Tallinn to face Estonia. Scotland's Group I campaign gets no easier this evening. After a 2-1 defeat to Russia, Steve Clarke's side face the number 1 ranked side in the world, that's Belgium, at Hampden Park, while Russia in that group are at home to Kazakhstan this evening, and San Marino face Cyprus.
Tom on YouTube, no one cares about Mick McCarthy and the softy soccer gang. This is rugby country.
Oh, Christ.
Remember that.
People fighting between sports and hurling people are the worst of it, are just
Now you're doing
the whole
it.
thing.
Now you're doing it.
Just enjoy the sport. If you don't enjoy it, watch something else. I don't get it.
Listen, you're taking away at least 10% of our content. Stop.
You gotta love Michael O'Neill's bullishness, don't you? Like, going to play Germany and he's throwing it out there.
Their defence were rubbish.
Really?
On Friday night. I was watching, like, they were really, there's a young lad playing the centre half alongside Nicolas Sula. I don't think he's playing again tonight, he's been dropped, but looked woefully out of his depth, and the Dutch capitalised on it. The Dutch were brilliant, to be fair to them. And Gini van Aldem in particular, his assist for the third goal and then his own for the fourth was fantastic, but the Germans looked rattled, and in the same way that we spoke about Joe Schmidt potentially being beyond where, you know, is sell by date maybe as Ireland head coach, you're looking at that and saying, why is Yogi Löw still in charge of the Germans? And on massive money, they seem to have really stagnated under him. So I think Michael O'Neill has every right to be somewhat, opportunistic and heading into tonight's game.
We ain't writing Joe Schmidt off yet.
No, we're not.
A quote from him today, interestingly, we'll touch on this later on, Rory. So he was asked about Rob Kearney here. He wasn't asked about preparation for the tournament, but he's asked about Kearney, and he's talked about how Kearney always played well in big games. And then went on to say, the game we lost here in the Six Nations against England, Rob wasn't playing and we were experimenting. And we experimented a bit during the Six Nations and we wouldn't normally do that. And he went on to talk about how they had won 3 of 5 and what they needed most here was at least a semi-final in the World Cup. So that would certainly strengthen the more optimistic interpretation of the last couple of weeks, which is that they are holding certain things back, and they have been maybe not just over the summer, but stretching right back to the start of the calendar year. That's the very optimistic interpretation.
Yeah, I think he's been consistent on that throughout. That would be what he said. At the Six Nations launch, he kind of flagged it, and then we saw it when Henshaw started 15, when, despite the fact that Rob Kearney was fit, used an awful lot of players, made selection decisions maybe based on either finding things out for the World Cup or investing a bit of time in players so that they'd be ready for the World Cup. And won 3 games in the middle, and then Cardiff was another disaster. So I don't think it was ever part of the plan to lose those 2 games, but I think he was always, he's been working towards this since the last quarter-final. He's been capping players. He's capped, I can't remember the exact figure, but he's captained an inordinate number of players in this World Cup cycle for this particular reason, and some of them were one cap and gone. Some of them he found something out and they've made it. So I think that's fair enough. But the signs are that he has got it right at this point.
Are Henshaw and Aki playing themselves into 12 and 13?
I think so. I think that he's going to rotate it through the tournament because of the way, I think it's a 6-day turnaround and a 5-day turnaround, so there will be, I think the back row and the centre partnership in particular will probably change as we go, but I think if you're playing against a really physical team, those two give you so much in defence and in their ball carrying. They both look really sharp, and he just hasn't had this freedom fit for so long. I think Farrell is definitively the 4th choice, but there's something about that partnership that he really, really likes. He does lose a bit of creativity in ring rows, but I think he'd take that to have that abrasive defensive edge that they bring.
Last couple of stories, Rich.
Yeah, we're quick. This one, Ireland's women's and men's side must both face their respective Canadian counterparts in the Olympic hockey playoffs. The women's side will have home advantage for their 2-legged tie in November, but the men will travel to Vancouver to face a side who are ranked 3 places above them in the world. Portlaoise middleweight Michael Nevin has won his opening bout at the World Men's Elite Boxing Championships. He saw off the Moldovan Andrei Vreme in today's preliminary round on a unanimous decision in Russia. Nevin will return to the ring in the last 32 on Saturday. He'll take on the Lithuanian Vytis Balsis. While Rafa Nadal says he's not aiming to overtake Roger Federer in the list of all-time Grand Slam winners, the Spaniard won his 19th Grand Slam title overnight by beating Daniil Medvedev in a 5-set thriller to win the US Open. The win means Nadal is just 1 behind Federer's total of 20 Grand Slam victories, but Nadal says he won't be more or less happy if he finishes ahead of the Swiss. And Munster have signed the Australian forward Jed Holloway as short-term cover during the World Cup. The 26-year-old can play either as a lock or back row, and he'll join on a 2-month 2-month deal from the end of this month. He's played for the Waratahs most recently, while out of contract pair Paddy Butler and Peter McCabe have also linked up with Johan van Graan's panel. And Cove Ramblers have erred on the side of continuity with the appointment of their new first team head coach. Stuart Ashton's been handed a contract until the end of the 2021 season. He's been in interim charge since the departure of Stephen Henderson in June and has been at St Coleman's Park as an assistant coach since 2017.
All right, that's you up to date and everything going on at the moment. Just before we get into Johnny Sexton, we're giving away a brilliant prize. It's to celebrate the opening of the very impressive new clubhouse at the Farnham Estate Spa and Golf Resort up in Cavan. We're giving one lucky listener the chance to win a year's golf membership for this wonderful Par 72 Parkland course. So a year's membership at Farnham Estate Spa and Golf Resort in Cavan. To be in with the chance of winning, all you have to do is tell us who won the Porsche European Open at the weekend. Who won the Porsche European Open at the weekend? Text your name, text your answer, 53106, 30 cents. We'll announce the winner before the end of the show. And for more details on membership and golfing breaks at Farnham Estate and Spa and Golf Resort, check out farnhamestate.ie. We will have more from Rory O'Connor in the next hour, but up next, Johnny Sexton in studio.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
Listen up, class. Aldi's Play Rugby sticker promotion is back. Collect official Irish rugby stickers every time you spend €30 in Aldi. Fill your primary school's poster for a chance to win one of 2 €50,000 prizes or one of 10 €10,000 prizes for your school's playing facilities. Tomorrow, Japanese for beginners. Konnichiwa, kids.
Konnichiwa, sir.
Aldi, official supermarket of the IRFU. Full details